If you spend your entire life being the strong one, the person who holds it all together, then for you perimenopause is not just a health issue. I absolutely get it. It is not fun to talk about difficulties, especially for high-performing women, high-performing non-binary people, because for one, being very strong was important for survival, to not get turned into a doormat. While you might not identify yourself willingly as the strong one, you might perceive your identity as I am kind, I'm resourceful, I'm creative, I'm a good friend, I'm a good parent, and so on. The unspoken part is that you are the one capable of holding it all together. So if somebody else in your household, for example, would start slacking, or in your job somebody would lose their capacity, then you would be able to compensate for that, right? While you would probably negotiate whether you are supposed to compensate for it, you would still be able to do it. Stability would come from you knowing that you can compensate for everyone else dropping out. And while that is good for stability itself, psychologically, it can develop a life on its own, when the feeling of capability and stability can seem the most important. And with this, oops, it has become part of the identity, below the awareness level. Now, what is supposed to be the problem with that? When I am strong and I have capacity and buffer, why should I not identify with that? It's a good situation, no? Because this influences how well you function in moments when the capability is reduced. If you have all of a sudden a physical or mental difficulty that is unexpected, something comes and it is unclear and it does not seem to go away after a few weeks, and it can start to look like a threat to your health. When you do not have your internal identity as the one who has capacity, then you can simply address that situation. If, however, there's part of your identity, maybe without your knowledge, sitting in I am so capable and I have all this buffer, then what happens? Once that buffer is not there and capability also is not quite as before, that can cause profound anxiety and even panic, because now it's not the situation that needs to be taken care of, it is an attack on your identity itself. And the irony in this is, when there is fear or heightened adrenaline response, then we have bad judgment. In acute anxiety, we are not in the position to make good decisions. Fear activates the parts of our brain and of our nervous system that lets us react very fast and seek an escape, not a sustainable solution. And that escape has to be immediately. And this is not the way to address any health issue or any systemic change. That is, for example, perimenopause. The body reads identity threat as being attacked. It cannot make a difference between physiological danger and psychological when it comes to identity. So danger from a tiger and danger from threat on identity are read as the same department. Danger from thoughts and danger that is actually here at the moment give us the same stress response. And that is the trap. When you try to prove you are fine, you are confirming to your nervous system that the tiger is still here. And because your brain thinks there is currently an attack happening, it shuts down that higher thinking, the planning thinking, the prefrontal cortex, because it wants you to focus on escaping. In that state of feeling threatened, we have very limited access to the rational department that is able to take a step back and look at the whole situation and not jump to conclusions or actions. What we actually should do is to strategize, to craft a deliberate plan, first assess the situation, but we're not able to do that in acute anxiety. So far, the neuropsychological part. But there are other parts also, of course. For example, our environment. Many people are still not ready to admit just how difficult exactly perimenopause can be for them. It basically stops at admitting some superficial symptoms like hot flashes, vaginal dryness, the symptoms that are possible to mention that we also can see in the media. But there's an entire range of other symptoms that are still not talked about. And somebody who experiences these symptoms and cannot really make sense of them and are left alone with them will be, of course, in a painful emotional situation. And they are also not welcomed talking about that emotional pain. Sometimes family can seem more displeased with the lack of functioning than they seem actually concerned for the well-being. Now, the one who always said everything is fine, who always could compensate, does not do that anymore. That is uncomfortable for the family now. They should ask, actually, are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help you? Can we take some of the work, some of the thinking, some of the planning and managing off your plate? But oftentimes, that is not the response. And sometimes even the older people who already are in menopause, who already are past it, they might say, oh, perimenopause, but that was nothing. That was nothing at all. It was so easy. No, don't worry. That was not a problem at all for me. We can talk about selective amnesia another time, but if you get told that while it is not in fact easy for you presently, then that can be so painful that part of your psyche protects you from the realization that these people are more interested in if I function. So, in this dissonance, the psyche takes the easy way out. The difficult way would be to talk with all of them and describe in full what you're going through and insist they take you seriously and help you and show empathy and respect and listen to you. And that might not seem feasible. So the alternative, the easy way is, the way of less friction is, I'm fine. It's not that bad after all. I can still get up and do the work. I am still functioning. How I'm feeling, that is subjective. I can just swallow that or cover up. As long as I can still do all the things, it is fine. Now that is the most dangerous thing you can do in such a situation. You have just added one more layer of pressure and have to cover it up. Now you must not only function under strain, you even have to hide the strain. The longer you insist that you are fine and it will be okay by itself, the more difficult it will be for you to then switch to, actually, I'm not fine. We need to sort this out now. The longer this I'm okay performance continues, the more shameful, embarrassing, or weak it may feel to step back. None of it is weak or shameful or embarrassing. It is not. But the psyche tells these stories, right? That you are weak when you change your mind, that you will be very honest now with yourself and others. It tells you it is embarrassing, which it is not. So then, taking action, asking for assistance, or making adjustments, that then feels like an admission of failure. Again, it is not, right? It is maturity only. But the psyche thinks it is weakness. Have you noticed how some very important people seem to have a lot of time? They start their day meditating, and then they make some strategic decisions and talk with one or two important other people, and later they go for a walk, because that is when the best ideas and solutions come to them, and they spend a lot of time on holidays also. So that is not to promote that lifestyle, because that is, of course, a question of money and status. Where I'm going with this is that some of these people have understood that they do not define themselves by their capacity at all. So they're very powerful, but their capacity does not matter. They also don't define themselves what they can compensate. If you hold yourself as a very important person, as the most important person you will ever meet, in fact, then you also, in the same way, you should not identify yourself with your capacity. Then you don't need to pretend you're fine. Instead, you can put into place what makes you fine, what is necessary. That might mean assistance, or it could be just a few tweaks in your normal daily life. Sometimes small things make a dramatic difference. I see that every day. But you have to be ready for it first. You need to stop liking yourself only when you are hyper capable or hyper performing. But I will lose my job. No, you will not. Because again, in the job, the most important people are the people who are efficient, who make the smart decisions, and who are experienced. Nobody is respected who is available to compensate for all kinds of stuff when you can work extreme loads that is not connected with being respected at all. It is often connected rather with self-image, self-respect, whether you love and accept yourself, even when you're not giving 150%. I cannot afford to lose my job, and that will happen if I take on less. That is a separate conversation that can be addressed. Rest assured that solutions are there. Trust that. Millions of people have made such an adjustment successfully, and you can do too. But that is not the first step now. The first step now is to get out of catastrophic thinking mode. But I cannot change anything because then disaster will happen. If you are thinking this, then you are officially already in panic mode. Then first you need to decouple, separate your identity from your capability. And by the way, this does not mean that afterwards you are less capable. Actually, you're more capable, because your decisions will be right from that part of the mind that can see little more strategically, that is more rational, makes better choices and therefore gets better results. Hyper functioning and being always fine, decoupling the idea of yourself from that means to really see the situation for what it is and not what you would like it to be. So you see more, you understand more. If you don't do that, then you might deplete the resources you have now, and you can run this vehicle into the ground in a way that you might actually lose your job because it takes years to recover from a burnout. Many people make such an experience when they have their first burnout. They are in denial until it is so late that they are so depleted that it takes a really ugly turn, and afterwards they have learned from that. They can see the warning signs when something similar is approaching again. Then that next time they will be faster to make the adjustments and be less in denial, because they know there is nothing to negotiate. You either avoid a burnout by making necessary changes, or it will hit you. You cannot pretend or discuss or wish a depletion, a burnout away. And taking such wisdom now into the new situation, that is perimenopause and perimenopause-related fluctuations or fatigue. Preserve your resources, and then once the situation is taken care of, you can again build on them. You spare some resources so that you keep a good fundament. On the other hand, if you were to remain identified with I'm fine regardless of whether I'm actually fine, that would mean depleting your resources. Then you have no more fundament. Then it takes years to rebuild. And that is why, however difficult it may be, I know it's difficult, but it is the step to take now. That also is maturity and self-compassion. You also teach others how to treat you. And you teach younger women how self-respect and self-preservation work. And that itself will strengthen you and for the rest of your life change your outlook and how you deal with difficulties. Bottom line, you do not need to push through more or pretend you are fine or get fine by learning an extra technique that makes you better at coping. You need to decouple your self-love from your capacity and your performance. If you want to look at the mechanics of how to do that, then you could come to the talk that is linked, or simply take the reflection suggestions from this talk here and take it from there. I wish you much success in this endeavor and always the best of health.